The alarms shrieked like wounded beasts through the corridors of Aurora Reach. Sparks hissed along the metal floor, smoke curling into the high ceilings, and the entire lab shook with the tremors of a microquake. The tiny dragon hatchling thrashed violently inside its containment field, its scales glinting a strange, almost unnatural silver. It let out a scream, sharp, piercing, and desperate. Every caretaker in the room backed away, faces pale, their hands trembling as they tried and failed to calm it. Kai, the mechanic's 14-year-old son, dashed down the hall, heart hammering. He had been forbidden to enter the high-security labs, but the chaos drew him in. His father's warnings echoed faintly in his mind, but he ignored them. The hatchling was in danger and he could feel it, an instinctive pull, deeper than fear or curiosity. By the time he reached the lab entrance, a maintenance crane had loosened in the tremor, swinging dangerously above the containment tank. The adults froze, unable to act. Without hesitation, Kai sprinted forward, dodging sparks and debris, and shoved the hatchling out of the crane's path just as it crashed with a deafening clang. Metal bent, wires sparked, and dust choked the room, but the hatchling was safe. It stared at him, unblinking, its large eyes shining with an intelligence no adult had expected. It hissed softly, a warning, yet did not retreat or struggle. Every caretaker stepped back, whispering in awe. It recognizes him, one muttered. What? How? Kai knelt beside the hatchling, extending a hand carefully. He felt the heat radiating from its scales, the tension in its muscles. Slowly, almost cautiously, it leaned into his touch. A tiny purr-like sound rumbled from its throat. The room went silent, the panic replaced by a stunned hush. Kai allowed himself a small smile, a surge of hope in the middle of the chaos. For the first time that day he felt a glimmer of control. The hatchling wriggled slightly, nuzzling his shoulder. No other adult had succeeded in calming it, none could. Yet here it was, trusting a human boy instinctively. Kai's mind raced. Why him? He remembered his father talking about rare alien creatures, how some could sense emotional resonance, even genetic patterns. Could it be that simple? Or was there something more? Suddenly, a sharp crack echoed through the lab. The containment field flickered violently, sending arcs of electric energy dancing across the floor. Sparks struck the metal tanks, sizzling dangerously. The hatchling leapt from Kai's arms, sliding across the slick floor, its claws scraping as it tried to regain balance. Kai dove, grabbing it again, his hands blistering from contact with the scales. Pain shot up his arms, but he ignored it. The lab's lights flickered, and a hiss of escaping gas added to the tension. Caretakers shouted instructions, but the sound was lost in the alarm's wailing. Kai's mind worked frantically. If the hatchling panicked now, the field could fail completely, sending the lab into a catastrophic chain reaction. He spotted a portable energy stabilizer on a nearby workbench, barely within reach. Using one hand to support the hatchling, he lunged and grabbed it. He pressed the controls instinctively, improvising, his mind focusing entirely on the task. The stabilizer hummed to life, sending a stream of energy toward the containment field. The field flickered but held. The hatchling, sensing the calm, nestled back against Kai. The small victory made his chest swell. He had bought them a few precious seconds, maybe more. Then came the microquake's aftershock. The floor tilted, sending tools and equipment sliding dangerously. Kai and the hatchling stumbled, and the stabilizer skidded toward the edge. With a quick leap, Kai caught it just before it crashed into the containment tank. For a heartbeat, the room froze, every eye watching the improbable rescue. As the dust settled, Kai straightened, holding the hatchling against his chest. It rested its tiny head on his shoulder, eyes half closed, almost serene. The adults stared, unsure whether to scold him or praise him. None of their protocols, none of their experience had prepared them for this. The hatchling had chosen him, and in doing so, it had challenged everything they thought they knew about these creatures. Kai's ears picked up a faint mechanical whir from the far end of the lab, something moving among the shadows. He tensed, holding the hatchling close. His chest tightened. This wasn't over. Whoever, or whatever, had sabotaged the field might still be here. The hatchling's scales shimmered as if sensing the threat too, and a low, warning growl vibrated from its chest. Kai swallowed hard, eyes scanning the room. A new, unnerving question formed in his mind. If the hatchling could trust him, and no one else, why? And what secret was it hiding that even the most advanced humans hadn't discovered? Before he could react, a shadow detached itself from the far wall, moving silently toward them. Kai's heart raced, and the hatchling stiffened in his arms, wings twitching. Something had entered the lab. Something that could undo everything they had just survived. The next second would decide not just their safety, but the truth the galaxy wasn't ready to hear. Kai's pulse raced as the shadow moved closer, a strange, glinting figure slipping silently between overturned crates and smoking consoles. The hatchling hissed, tiny wings flaring, scales gleaming with an almost phosphorescent light. Kai tightened his grip, instinct screaming at him to act. But he had no weapons, no backup, only his wits and a fragile trust from a creature the galaxy had never seen before. The shadow revealed itself. A drone, small but deadly, its sensors glowing red, scanning for life signs. It had slipped past the station's perimeter unnoticed, clearly built for sabotage. Kai's stomach churned. If it reached the hatchling, the consequences could be catastrophic. He spotted the stabilizer he had rescued earlier, still humming faintly with energy. An idea sparked. He set the hatchling down gently, whispering, "Stay close. Don't move." The hatchling looked at him with wide, knowing eyes, as if understanding every word. Kai grabbed the stabilizer, adjusting the dials. A current ran through the lab's floor grids, enough to create a temporary electromagnetic field. He aimed it toward the drone. The machine faltered, sparking, then zipped backward with a shriek of metal, hitting the wall. Kai allowed himself a small, tense smile. One victory, but the problem was far from over. The hatchling pressed against his legs, its small claws digging lightly into his pants. Kai could feel its trust, fragile but real. It was the only creature in the lab that acknowledged him as its protector. Every adult present stared at him, mouths open, unsure whether to intervene or simply let him continue. They had all failed before. Now the responsibility rested solely on this boy. Kai knew he had to stay calm, think fast, and act decisively. A warning beep echoed from the lab's sensors. More drones were incoming. The hatchling growled softly, a sound almost like a low vibration. Kai crouched, peering through the dust-filled lab. The next wave wasn't just one drone, it was a coordinated strike, and their approach was silent and precise. He had seconds to act. Kai scanned the scattered equipment, spotting tools, spare wiring, and a small gravity manipulator used for maintenance. He could use them to create barriers, slow down the drones, and guide them into positions where the stabilizer's energy could disable them. With no time to think twice, he acted. He rigged makeshift tripwires, patched circuits together, and positioned small plates to reflect the energy pulses. His hands moved rapidly, muscles aching from the earlier strain. Sweat stung his eyes, but he did not falter. The hatchling pressed closer to him, wings twitching nervously, sensing the danger. The drones appeared, skimming over the floor in perfect formation. Kai activated the stabilizer. The first drone screamed as an electric pulse ricocheted off his makeshift barriers. Sparks flew. It spun out of control, crashing into a console, knocking over a container of coolant that hissed as it met the floor. The sound made the hatchling jump, claws scraping, but Kai steadied it with a gentle hand. Another drone approached. He redirected the pulse, sending it skidding against the wall. 2 down. Then a third drone split off, faster than the others, heading straight for the hatchling. Kai lunged, shoving the creature out of the path at the last moment. His hand grazed the drone's casing, receiving a minor shock that made him stumble but did not stop him. The hatchling let out a squeal, flapping its wings, then nuzzled into him again. Kai's stomach churned. Each second now counted. He had to protect it at all costs. The hatchling suddenly screeched and leapt, knocking over a small panel that revealed a hidden vent. Kai realized in shock, the creature wanted to guide him somewhere. Could it be leading him to safety, or to something else entirely? He followed instinctively, carrying the stabilizer in one hand and keeping a firm grip on the hatchling with the other. The drones pursued, but the hatchling's sharp movements created distractions, tripping them over pipes and debris. They reached a small maintenance hatch, barely large enough for Kai to squeeze through. He pried it open and slipped inside, hatchling clutched to his chest. The drones banged against the metal floor above, sparking and whining, unable to follow. Kai exhaled a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. The micro-victory gave him a brief sense of control, yet he knew this was only a temporary reprieve. The hatchling squirmed slightly, then pressed its head against his shoulder, curling as if to say, "We survived, but there's more." Kai's heart warmed at the trust, yet fear gnawed at the edges. Why was it only responding to him? What secret did this tiny creature hold that made it so unique? His mind raced, connecting pieces of observations. The way it reacted to his heartbeat, the sudden guidance toward the hatch. Something extraordinary linked them, something beyond explanation. As he crawled through the narrow maintenance tunnel, Kai felt the hatchling stiffen. Ahead, a faint hum pulsed through the metal walls, different from the station's usual machinery, a rhythm almost alive. The hatchling hissed, wings twitching. Kai froze, sensing danger but unable to see it yet. The pulse grew stronger, vibrating under his hands and chest. He pressed the hatchling closer, whispering, "Stay calm. We'll figure it out." Then the hatchling's scales shimmered unnaturally, reflecting light in patterns Kai had never seen before. Tiny sparks of energy crackled from its body, lighting up the tunnel. The boy stumbled backward, startled, and realized with a shock that this creature wasn't just rare. It might be the key to something far bigger than anyone on the station understood. A low, resonant vibration hummed through the walls. The hatchling's eyes glowed brighter, and it let out a cry that echoed down the metal tunnel. Kai's stomach dropped. Whatever lay ahead in the station, the danger wasn't over, it had only begun. And somewhere in the shadows, the faint red glow of another drone, or something else entirely, blinked at them, waiting. Kai tightened his grip on the hatchling, heart pounding, knowing the next step could change everything, if they survived it. Kai pressed forward through the narrow maintenance tunnel, the hatchling still cradled tightly against his chest. Its small claws dug gently into his shirt as if anchoring itself to him, and its wings twitched nervously against his arms. The pulsing hum in the walls grew stronger with every step, a strange vibration that made his teeth chatter and his chest tighten. It wasn't the station's normal machinery. Something else was down here, something alive, or maybe not alive in any way he could understand. He ducked under a low pipe, every nerve alert. A sudden flash of light danced across the tunnel walls, and the hatchling jerked, letting out a shrill cry that reverberated through the metal corridor. Kai froze. He could feel a strange resonance in the air, a frequency that seemed to respond to the hatchling's presence. His mind raced, trying to make sense of it. Could it be that the creature was somehow interacting with the station's systems, or that the systems themselves were reacting to it? Ahead, the tunnel opened into a larger maintenance chamber, dimly lit by emergency lights. The walls were lined with conduits, glowing faintly with residual energy. Kai's eyes widened. Something massive had been hidden here, a device the size of a small shuttle, its surface covered in etched symbols that pulsed faintly with the same rhythm as the hum. The hatchling stiffened, its body vibrating slightly in Kai's arms. It hissed, a low, urgent warning. Kai took a deep breath and set the hatchling down carefully. He crouched beside it, speaking softly. "It's okay. We need to see what's going on." The hatchling stared at him, large eyes shimmering in the dim light, as if considering whether it could trust him to handle whatever lay ahead. Then it turned its gaze to the massive device, stepping forward with surprising boldness. Kai followed, heart pounding. He reached out to touch the device, curious despite the danger. The moment his fingers brushed its surface, a wave of energy pulsed through him. His vision blurred for a second, then sharpened. Images flashed across his mind, strange landscapes, otherworldly skies, and enormous creatures flying through storms of silver lightning. He staggered back, gasping. The hatchling hissed again, wings flaring, then pressed against his side, grounding him. Kai realized something incredible. The hatchling was sharing these visions. It wasn't just a creature, it was a link, a key to knowledge and places humans had never reached. The genetic bond he had sensed earlier, the way it responded only to him, wasn't coincidence. This hatchling recognized him as part of a lineage capable of understanding or unlocking its secrets. His father's stories of rare alien bonds had been only half the truth. Before he could process this fully, the hum shifted, sharper now, almost angry. A hidden compartment in the device slid open, revealing a small chamber lined with crystalline panels. Inside, a strange core floated, radiating energy that seemed alive. The hatchling's eyes widened, and it screeched, the sound vibrating through the room like a physical force. Kai's heart skipped. This core, whatever it was powerful, far beyond anything the station scientists had ever seen. He reached out instinctively, and the hatchling leapt onto his shoulder, its body glowing faintly. The energy from the core pulsed in sync with the hatchling's heartbeat, or maybe with his own. Kai felt an overwhelming connection, as though the three of them, himself, the hatchling, and the core, were intertwined in some larger pattern he could barely comprehend. A sudden clang made him spin. The shadow from before was back, but it wasn't a drone this time. A humanoid figure emerged from the corner of the chamber, clad in dark armor that reflected the dim light. Its helmeted face gave nothing away, but Kai could sense its intent: capture the hatchling, harness the core, and eliminate anything in the way. Fear surged, but he forced it down. He had survived before, he could survive now. The hatchling hissed and flared its wings, sparks jumping from its scales. Kai grabbed a loose pipe and swung, forcing the figure back. The armored intruder blocked it with ease, but the momentary distraction gave Kai an idea. He tapped into the device's exposed circuits, using the energy pulses to create a small barrier between them. Sparks flew, and the intruder hissed in frustration. Kai's quick thinking had bought them time, but not safety. "Listen to me," Kai whispered to the hatchling. "We have to control it together. I need you." The hatchling pressed against him, wings wrapping around his arm. Suddenly the core pulsed violently, sending a wave of light through the chamber. The intruder recoiled, stumbling backward as the energy resonated in the hatchling's body. Kai realized, with a surge of adrenaline, that the hatchling could manipulate this power, but only with him. He took a cautious step forward, raising his hand toward the core. The energy responded, forming patterns in the air, and the intruder froze, eyes widening beneath the helmet. Kai felt a thrill of understanding. He could guide this power through his bond with the hatchling. This was no longer just survival, it was a chance to control the impossible, to protect the creature and himself and maybe even the station. Then came the unexpected. The hatchling's eyes glowed brighter, and a series of faint symbols flashed across the core. Kai's stomach dropped. He had glimpsed the truth, but only partially. Whatever the hatchling had been guarding, whatever secret it carried, it was far bigger than he could understand. The intruder's gaze shifted, a warning that more dangers were coming, and the hatchling screeched again, almost pleading. Kai grabbed the creature, clinging to it tightly. "We'll face it together," he whispered. But even as he said it, he realized that this was only the beginning. The hatchling's true power, its reason for choosing him, and the larger forces moving in the shadows were still mysteries, and each step forward would be more dangerous than the last. A low hum began to grow louder, and the energy core pulsed faster. Kai's eyes widened in horror and awe. Something deep within the station had been activated. The hatchling stiffened, wings flaring violently. The intruder took a step back, but a second shadow appeared, larger, more menacing, moving silently through the room. Kai's chest tightened. The turning point had arrived. The hatchling's secret was no longer just a mystery, it was a weapon, a key, and a challenge that could change everything. And whatever had awoken was not finished. Kai tightened his grip, feeling the hatchling's warmth against his chest, and whispered, "We have to be ready." The shadows shifted, and the chamber plunged into tension so thick it almost had weight. Whatever was coming next, Kai knew one thing for certain. He could not fail. Kai's heart pounded as the chamber trembled with the energy of the core. The hatchling pressed against his chest, wings fluttering anxiously, scales shimmering with a strange silver glow that seemed to pulse with life. The intruder and the second shadow advanced, moving like predators stalking prey. Kai's mind raced, every instinct screamed danger, every thought demanded action. There was no time to hesitate. He ducked behind a console, clutching the hatchling tightly. Sparks flew from damaged conduits, filling the air with a metallic tang. The shadows paused, scanning, clearly aware of the hatchling's presence. Kai's chest tightened. If they reached the creature, the station could collapse, the hatchling could be lost, and whatever secret it carried would fall into the wrong hands. He had to act, now. Scanning the room, Kai spotted fragments of conduit tubing, a loose magnetic stabilizer, and a panel of exposed wiring. He grabbed them, improvising on instinct. With the hatchling in one arm, he jerry-rigged a makeshift trap. Wiring connected to the magnetic stabilizer, bent tubing acting as conductors, designed to generate a repulsion field. It was dangerous, he had no way of knowing exactly how it would interact with the core, but he had no choice. The intruder lunged first. Kai activated the stabilizer. A sudden pulse of magnetic energy shot across the floor, bouncing off the tubing, creating a barrier that forced the intruder to stagger backward. Sparks danced along the metal panels and a high-pitched whine echoed through the chamber. The hatchling screeched and leapt, its tiny claws digging into Kai's shoulder, wings flaring, scales radiating light that seemed to amplify the pulse. The intruders shielded their face, shouting in frustration. Kai didn't pause. He saw the second shadow moving along the upper catwalk, preparing to drop onto them. With a quick calculation he aimed a second pulse, redirecting energy through exposed conduits. A flash of light illuminated the chamber, and the shadow crashed into a stack of storage crates with a deafening clang. Dust and debris filled the air, giving him and the hatchling a moment to breathe. But the reprieve was fleeting. The core pulsed violently, sending waves of energy that rattled the metal walls. The hatchling hissed, wings twitching as if warning Kai that the next moment would be critical. Kai felt the resonance too, a vibration that ran through his bones, echoing in his chest like a warning drum. The intruder had recovered and was charging again, and this time they weren't alone. Kai knew he couldn't fight them conventionally. He had to use the hatchling's connection to the core. "Trust me," he whispered, setting the creature gently on the floor. The hatchling's eyes glowed, its body vibrating in time with the energy pulsing from the core. Kai reached out, touching the core directly, guiding the energy through himself to the hatchling. Sparks arced, lighting the chamber in ghostly silver patterns. The intruders staggered, shielded from the pulses by protective plating, but even they felt the overwhelming force. A shocking thing happened. The hatchling reacted to Kai's focus. Its small body emitted a radiant wave of energy, arcs of electricity dancing along its scales, weaving into the pulses from the core. The intruder was thrown off balance, stumbling into a corner. Kai realized the hatchling's power wasn't just defensive. It could shape the energy, redirect it, protect them, and even neutralize threats. Kai's mind worked frantically. If he could synchronize fully with the hatchling, he might be able to repel the intruders and stabilize the core at the same time. He steadied his breathing, focusing on the rhythm of the creature's heartbeat, feeling the resonance flow into him. The hatchling hissed once, sharply, then exhaled, sending a controlled surge of energy that arced toward the intruder. Sparks flew, metal twisted, and the intruder fell hard to the floor, unconscious. The second shadow hesitated, realizing the first had been neutralized. Kai seized the moment, stepping forward with the hatchling, channeling the energy in a precise arc. The shadow attempted to strike, but the hatchling's glowing body repelled it, forcing it back. In a final pulse, Kai and the hatchling synchronized perfectly, the energy from the core forming a protective wave that threw the shadow against the far wall. Silence followed, save for the hum of the core and the hatchling's soft purring. Kai sank to one knee, holding the hatchling close. Its wings wrapped around him, curling into a protective coil. His arms ached, his body trembled, but he couldn't stop smiling. They had survived, and for the first time, he understood the depth of the creature's trust in him. He had not only protected it, but they had become a team, bonded in a way no one else could replicate. The adults arrived, eyes wide, faces pale from witnessing the chaos. I didn't know it could do that," one whispered. "No one could have managed it." Kai didn't answer. He only held the hatchling, feeling its warmth, sensing the pulse of its connection to the core. He realized that humans with courage, quick thinking, and empathy could influence forces far greater than their own understanding. But the relief was short-lived. A deep vibration thrummed from the walls, slower, heavier than before. The hatchling stiffened in his arms, wings twitching violently. Kai looked up, heart pounding. The core pulsed again, brighter, and the symbols etched into its surface shifted, forming patterns he couldn't comprehend. Then, from the shadows at the back of the chamber, a faint silhouette moved. A larger, more menacing form, its outline barely visible against the emergency lights. Kai tightened his grip on the hatchling. "It's not over," he whispered, voice barely audible over the humming pulse. The hatchling hissed, a sound almost like a warning, and its scales sparked with light, illuminating the chamber in a ghostly glow. Kai could feel the energy shift, a rising threat approaching, more powerful than anything they had faced. He took a deep breath, muscles coiled, mind racing. They had survived the impossible once, but now whatever was coming was bigger, stronger, and closer than ever. The hatchling pressed its head against his shoulder, eyes locking onto him with unmistakable trust. Kai realized that their bond was not just survival, it was their weapon, their shield, and the key to the challenges ahead. As the massive shadow stepped forward, blocking the exit and sending ripples through the floor, Kai's chest tightened. This was the climax, the moment that would define everything. The hatchling hissed again, flaring its wings, silver sparks arcing through the air. Kai steadied himself, feeling its heartbeat synchronize with his own. Whatever came next, they would face it together, and he would not fail. The chamber held its breath. And in the distance, through the humming walls, a faint pulse began to echo, one that Kai did not recognize. Something even larger was awakening. Kai's arms ached, his chest heaving, but he didn't let go of the hatchling. The room hummed with residual energy, silver sparks dancing across the walls from the still pulsing core. The massive shadow at the back of the chamber had retreated, temporarily, but Kai knew it hadn't vanished. Its presence lingered in every vibration, every flicker of light. He looked down at the hatchling, its scales dulling slightly as it settled against him, and felt a wave of relief wash over him. They had survived the impossible together. The station's adults crept cautiously into the chamber, eyes wide with awe. Dr. Soren, the lead scientist, stepped forward, voice trembling. I've never seen anything like this. The way how it responded, only you could control it. Kai shook his head, exhausted but focused. It's not about control, he said quietly. It trusts me. That's why we survived. The hatchling chirped softly, curling its wings around him as if understanding his words. Its small head rested on his shoulder, eyes half closed but still alert. Kai realized that this tiny creature, dismissed by everyone else as uncontrollable, had shown something far more remarkable: the ability to recognize a human not just as a caretaker but as an ally. He felt a surge of pride, knowing that in a universe full of advanced technology, cunning enemies and alien mysteries, humanity, through courage, intelligence and empathy, could make a difference. Dr. Soren approached the core carefully, examining the etched symbols and the pulsing energy. Kai, you need to understand, she said, pointing at the hatchling. This bond isn't just emotional. The creature, your connection, it's unlocking the core systems. We couldn't have done this without you. The energy, the resonance, it's recognizing something unique in humans. Kai's mind raced. A unique genetic pattern and emotional resonance, perhaps a combination of both. Whatever it was, he felt honored and terrified. This bond wasn't just about survival, it was about responsibility. If the hatchling chose him, the stakes were enormous. The hatchling stirred in his arms, eyes narrowing as it focused on a faint signal pulsing from deeper in the station. Kai frowned. It's warning us, he said. Something else is coming. Something bigger. Its tiny claws gripped his shirt, tail flicking anxiously, wings fluttering with tension. Dr. Soren's voice dropped to a whisper. The core's activation has sent a signal, not just through the station but out into space. Whoever, or whatever, is out there will have felt it. We can't stay here. Kai didn't hesitate. With the hatchling pressed against him, he ran toward the maintenance tunnels that would lead them to the station's secondary command hub. Every step echoed through the corridors, every vibration reminding him that danger was not gone. It had only been delayed. The hatchling's presence calmed him in a way nothing else could. It was their bond that gave him courage, guiding him through the chaos. They reached the command hub, where a team of station engineers and security personnel were scrambling to stabilize systems after the drone attack. Kai set the hatchling down gently. Its small body glowed faintly in the dim light, scales reflecting the control panel's emergency reds and blues. We have to prepare, he said. It's coming. And we'll need everyone ready. The hatchling chirped, stepping toward the main console. Kai followed, realizing that the creature seemed to recognize patterns, input sequences and even energy flows. Its instincts, combined with Kai's decisions, allowed them to stabilize parts of the station that had been failing under stress. The team watched in stunned silence as Kai and the hatchling worked in tandem, each pulse of energy, each flick of a claw, correcting problems with precision that no human or AI could match alone. Hours passed like minutes. By the time the station stabilized, the hatchling was perched on Kai's shoulder again, wings folded, eyes alert. He looked around at the exhausted but relieved faces of the adults. We did it, he said softly. But it's not over. Whatever this hatchling is connected to, it's bigger than us. The hatchling nuzzled him gently, almost as if agreeing. Kai smiled faintly, the weight of responsibility pressing on him, but also a strange exhilaration. Humanity had survived, had shined through intelligence, courage, and empathy. Even a 14-year-old mechanic's son could make a difference where seasoned scientists and soldiers could not. That was the human advantage, the courage to act, the creativity to improvise, and the heart to care when the stakes were impossibly high. As they prepared to return to the main station deck, a faint, rhythmic pulse echoed from the far end of the complex. It was subtle, almost drowned out by the core's hum, but distinct. The hatchling's body stiffened, tail flicking rapidly, wings quivering with tension. Kai froze. He knew that signal. It wasn't random, it was deliberate. Something out there had received the activation, something alive and aware, waiting. Kai glanced down at the hatchling. Looks like our journey isn't done, he whispered. The hatchling's eyes glimmered, bright and intelligent, as if confirming his words. It was a quiet moment of understanding, a bond strengthened by survival, trust, and courage. Kai straightened, gripping the hatchling, ready for whatever came next. He could feel the weight of the galaxy pressing in, the promise of danger and discovery looming on the horizon. The hatchling chirped softly, tail brushing his arm, and for the first time, Kai felt not fear but determination. Together they could face whatever came, whatever secrets, enemies or cosmic mysteries lay ahead. The chamber settled into a tense silence. Sparks faded, the core dimmed to a steady glow, and the adults breathed easier. But the pulsing signal persisted, faint but unmistakable. Somewhere, out there in the darkness of space, something had been awakened. Kai's grip on the hatchling tightened. The next adventure was already beginning. And with a final glance at the glowing creature in his arms, he whispered, "We'll be ready." The hatchling chirped in agreement, wings twitching, eyes alert. Outside the station, a distant shimmer of light moved across the void, a hint of the larger mystery awaiting them, a force that would test their courage, intelligence, and bond like never before. The galaxy was watching, and humanity had just made its mark. Kai took a deep breath, and together boy and hatchling stepped into the unknown.